Item number 9A, Honorable Minister. क्या हो गया? अब कल जो बचा है वो कल ले लेंगे.
Madam Speaker.
Yes. Please. कल दे.
As we all know, the Lokpal Lokayuktas Bill 2013 became an act and a law.
दे देंगे ना, ऐसा नहीं क्यों? अब आ गए, दे दो. I know, बैठो, ऐसा नहीं होता. Yes.
The Lokpal Lokayuktas 2013 became an act from January 2014. And after the government took over in May 2014,
गुस्सा नहीं करते, बैठो.
we went through the details of the bill, and an opinion came up that certain more modifications were required in order to make it more feasible and workable. So the amendment to the Lokpal bill was brought into the Lok Sabha in December 2014. There was a brief discussion, following which the members, honorable members across the party lines, were of the opinion that the bill needed to go to the standing committee for further deliberations and further. So considering the sense of the House, the bill was sent to the standing committee. The report was received in December 2015. The bill became a law in 2014 January. Now, the bill, as we know, was passed by Parliament on the recommendations of the standing committee, and the amendments to the provisions of the Act have been introduced by the government, and reconsiderations are being made again by the standing committee, which are already there. But some of the provisions of this Act are there which has created certain issues. For example, the Act requires that all public servants should file their declaration of assets, including assets of their spouses and children. So that is one issue which is raised considerable amount of discussion. And the date for that was April, which was later on extended, and currently the deadline, the last date is 31st of July 2016. Similarly, Speaker Ma'am, the provisions of the Act also relate to another issue which has generated considerable amount of discussion. This is the declaration of assets by several persons connected with non-government organizations, NGOs, which receive their funding from foreign sources or get direct or indirect funding from the state. Some of these NGOs, as all of us are aware, could be also running certain education institutions, some of them also running some media houses, both in the electronic sector as well as in the print media. And therefore, while larger amendments are pending consideration by the standing committee, the need for the public servants and the NGOs to file their asset declaration has raised quite a lot of debate. In the meanwhile, on the 25th of July, that is Monday, a delegation of honorable members of parliament from different parties met the honorable Prime Minister and requested him to delete the provisions with regard to the declaration of assets, and also that the provision requiring that these assets be made public. The Prime Minister assured them that the government would look into the matter. Considering all this, ma'am, the government has done some exercise on this and is of the opinion that since this law was framed after a detailed consideration by the standing committee, the same would require to be considered in depth by the standing committee itself. The government is open to the idea of amending the law, but the same can be done only after it is considered by the standing committee. the government hopes that this standing committee, which is already seized of the matter, on a larger review of the Act, as is being suggested from across the sections of society and across the sections in both the houses. We hope that the mentioned provisions would be considered in entirety, and the standing committee would endeavour to make its recommendations expeditiously and, if possible, before the next session of the Parliament. In the meanwhile, Speaker Ma'am, I propose an amendment in the Parliament today in order to substitute the provision of Section 44, which precisely deals with the declaration of assets and the provision of making the assets public. And I do so that the present or the immediate impasse which has happened with regard to the declaration of assets can be overcome, and the same in relation to the public servants, which includes the government officials as well as the political functionaries, and the other category of the NGOs could be deferred. With these few words, ma'am, I propose to the Honourable House that the amendment may kindly be accepted. Thank you, ma'am. That since...
Let him complete.
No, as I said,
Yes.
since we would refer it to the committee, and we would request that the report is available to us by the next session, because as is usually the norm. But the meanwhile, since this entire text is based on the sense of the House, I hope without discussion we could pass it, so that we have also the urgency of the date 31st July, which is the deadline.
Yes. Since
House is discussing this through the standing committee, then you are expecting that the report should come in the next session. So how do you arrive that immediately this one section has to be amended, and why you are saying of the sense of the House? I want to know when this sense of the House we arrived at.
This one section, as pointed out by the honourable member, although the amendment to the bill with the amendment which was introduced initially in December 2014 in the same House, had a long list of amendments, as is being pointed out by the honourable member. He is right. These amendments were of a different nature. For example, because I would not be able to go into the entire detail, for example, one of the provisions there was that the selection committee ought to have the leader of the opposition. And since in the present House we didn't have an acknowledged leader of the opposition, we thought we could bring in an amendment accepting the leader of the largest opposition party as the leader of the opposition. Similarly, in the selection committee we had a provision for having jurist members. But somehow, when the bill was passed in 2014, January, and became an act, the duration or the term of the jurist was not specified. So we thought that was also one technical. So what I'm trying to say is that though this is not the only amendment, but the urgency, as he's rightly pointing out, of bringing an amendment pertaining to this Section 44 arises from the fact that this has put a binding on us to stick to the deadline of July 31st for filing your assets, including the assets of the spouses and children, and also making them public, and not only the assets of the public servants, but also assets of the NGOs and the various trusts. So in order to overcome that technicality, this amendment is being brought in. But of course, there are other amendments which can be taken up later.
yes. I think
Madam, may I just say one sentence, that this is a sensible move on the part of the government, and I hope will make sure that genuine philanthropic and charitable work does not get adversely affected by the provisions of the Act. The phrase public servant has to be properly defined when the larger amendment comes. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
the question is that the bill be taken into consideration. Those in favor may say aye. Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. Yes. Yes, the motion for consideration of the bill is adopted. The House will now take up clause by clause. एक उसमें करो ना, please. आपको बुलाऊंगे ना, अभी पूरा कहाँ हुआ है, अभी शुरू हो रहा है. I will call you. I will call you at that section. Please, the House will now take up clause by clause consideration of the bill. I will. The question is that clauses 2 and 3 do stand part of the bill. उस समय बोलूंगी ना आपको. Those in favor में से आए, those against में से no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Clauses 2 and 3 stand part of the bill. उस वहाँ तक पहुँचने तो दो. The question is that clause 1 enacting formula and long title do stand part of the bill. Those in favor में से आए, those against में से no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Clause 1 enacting formula and long title stand part of the bill. Yes. Yes, Mohammad Salim ji. Please.
No.
अरे मोहम्मद सलीम जी बोल.
हमें सवाल
आपको देती हूँ.
नहीं बोलने देंगे.
आपको दूँ पहले उनको बोलने दो.
Madam.
Yes.
Minister states for the urgency.
Yes.
Okay, I accept.
Yes.
Without putting it in the list of the business,
Yes.
without circulating any supplementary business,
Yes.
you are bringing this bill.
Yes.
It's a wrong parliamentary practice. I'm asking you one. One by one. Let me. 3 questions. क्या urgency? आप सुन लीजिए बात मेरा. One.
Let him complete.
It's a wrong practice. One.
Yes.
Secondly,
Yes.
the minister himself, while introducing this bill and asking for passing, saying this in entirety, standing
Yes.
committee sees of the matter.
Yes.
But this is 144, section 44, we have to amend. Reason is, 2 reasons. One is a delegation made the Prime Minister,
No.
so Prime Minister said, 1. And secondly, 31st July, the declaration of assets, so naturally the deadline is there. This is in retrospective for 2014, since 2014. Now we know this country have debated not only in the parliament, not only in the standing committee, outside also, about this Lokpal and Lokayuktas. बहुत चर्चा हुए. ये करप्शन के साथ भी जुड़ा हुआ है, बेनामी के साथ भी जुड़ा हुआ है. जो 2012 में जो रिपोर्ट आए थे, दी दिन आज जो राष्ट्रपति जी हैं, वो ब्लैक मनी के बारे में जो व्हाइट पेपर आए थे, तब से सरकार एड्रेस कर रही है इस इशू को. कानून भी बने बहुत से. हमने लोकपाल के बिल को अमेंड किए जब जरूरत पड़ा एलओपी के मामले में. लेकिन ये जब पब्लिक सर्वेंट के ऊपर आप कुछ जहां से देखना मिल रहा है कि आप इस कैद से बाहर निकालने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. हम खुद संसद सदस्य इसके दावे में आते हैं, तो फिर हम खुद अपने को बचाने के लिए फिलांथ्रोपिक एनजीओ, हम जानती है सरकार एनजीओ के साथ क्या कर रही है और किस तरह से हैरेसमेंट किया जा रहा है. उस वक्त हम ये एसेट डिक्लेरेशन के बारे में, आप यहां जो कॉम्पिटेंट अथॉरिटी को कानून के प्रोविजन में है, कॉम्पिटेंट अथॉरिटी के पास आपको डिक्लेयर करना पड़ेगा. लोकसभा के सदस्य ऐसे हैं जो आपके बुलेटिन के बाद भी, निर्देश के बाद भी वो एसेट डिक्लेयर नहीं करते हैं. रिपोर्टेड है न्यूज मीडिया. प्लीज हमें बोलने दीजिए. अब ये बिल को अर्जेंसी करके
बोला ना.
नहीं, सरकार इतने प्यार से क्यों अचानक पब्लिक सर्वेंट इंक्लूडिंग मेंबर्स ऑफ पार्लियामेंट को ये किफायत करने के लिए बिना चर्चा पास करना चाह रही है, उस सवाल का जवाब अब तक नहीं आया.
यस मिनिस्टर.
स्पीकर मैम,
प्लीज. अरे बोल रहे हैं ना, चिल्ला तो प्लीज. यस मिनिस्टर.
Speaker ma'am, at the outset I would like to clarify that government is not against Lokpal bill. Let not the message by any chance go that we are against the Lokpal bill or we are against the eradication of corruption. That is certainly not the message and that is certainly not the intention. And having said that, I heard the honorable member and he's made some good inputs. Now what we are trying to actually facilitate an effective implementation of the bill. And for that only, sir, ma'am, we brought in the amendment bill in December 2014, because the bill, as it had been passed and became an act in January 2014, was not workable for a number of reasons, which I already tried to point out to you: the issue of the leader of opposition, the issue of the duration of the various members, their term of the juris, then also where the offices would be, certain logistic issues as well. And that amendments are still there. They were sent to the Standing Committee on the advice of the House. The Standing Committee report has come. Now, out of those amendments, now this particular one, Section 44, has suddenly created an urgency because it prescribes the deadline of July 31st. Now, since this is a bill which has already become a law, we cannot do it on our own. We have to go back to the Parliament. So, specifically for this Section 44. Now, the second part which the Honourable Member has pointed out, it is not that the delegation met the Honourable Prime Minister and therefore this is inspired. No, no. No. You are narrating only half truth of what I said. I am saying, sir, yes. Let me repeat what I said. I said that the opinion was sought to be obtained from different sections of society, from different opinion sections, including the stakeholders, also from the honourable members of Parliament, from both the houses, across the party lines. And meanwhile, please read my statement, I have mentioned meanwhile, कि उसी दौरान एक delegation मिला. Not that the delegation went and overnight we got prompted. So this is a process, part of a larger process to gather as many inputs as possible from the stakeholders as well as from others. Now, thirdly, as far as the public servants are concerned, which includes the government officials, which also includes the political functionaries, including the members of Parliament, there is nowhere have we try to say, or there is a reflection of the intention that we are trying to do away with the provisions against corruption. At the same time, there are issues which have been raised by the public servants, for example, relating to the declaration of the assets of their spouses, their children. For example, you have a public servant, a civil servant, mostly lady officers have also raised that contention, and the spouse is working elsewhere. They are not very clear whether they should be asked to make it public and to declare the assets. So we said, let's have a serious, fair, objective thought over it. That is one aspect. Secondly, as far as the NGOs are concerned, it is not my NGO or your NGO or siding with an NGO. We have NGOs which are doing philanthropic activity, which are NGOs which are running educational institutions, some of them also good ones. We have NGOs or trusts running media houses. And therefore, it is just to give a space to the inputs received by all of them. We have never negated if the Standing Committee and the opinion later on is to go ahead in the same manner as it is today. The government is ready to go ahead because we are committed to work against corruption and to implement Lokpal as it is approved by the House.
Now it's okay. ये तो केवल बाद में फिर स्टैंडिंग कमेटी में जाना ही है, उस समय आप उसको फिर पलटा दो. नो क्वेश्चन. So the minister 31st.
That we need to talk, give us time, don't take it to Tuesday. That is, they wanted to say it is a very urgent. We agreed to that. All right, you take it on Tuesday, but we want to make a discussion. That I was also said that we are having our own points, but that discussion part we are not getting the chance. I can appreciate the urgency, but the Honourable Minister, I want to tell you one thing. Is there any concept in your minds that NGOs should be brought beyond the scope of this act itself? Whether it's running a media, whether it's running anything. If this is the concept, educational institution is now commercial. Where is the hospitality? Where is the charitable? Very few places the charitable places is there. Therefore, kindly do not, please, kindly just said, madam, 1 minute. If you today without discussion is being passed, it's all right. But do not, please, for the benefit of the country, do not make any attempt to dilute the act itself. There should not be any dilution. Okay. NGOs are also responsible. NGOs are taking money. If any media, NGO runs the media, therefore he should be because he is a media, they should be brought beyond the scope of the act itself that we are opposing to it.
Speaker ma'am, the suggestions of the honourable member are well taken. I don't know how the message has gone that we are trying to spare or bail out any NGO which is at fault. Not at all. Who said that? Now, having said that, sir,
नहीं, इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है कि बहुत अर्जेंट है। 31 जुलाई, एक मिनट भाई, क्यों 31 जुलाई तक इसको टाइम रहने से इसको एक्सटेंशन के लिए आप सेक्शन 44 का लाए हैं, एंड दैट डेट यू विल बी द डेट फ्रॉम विच यू वांट टू कमेंस, यू विल नोटिफाई दैट इज अ डिफरेंट थिंग। बट अरे 14 तो करो, 15 तो करो भाई, तो लेकिन 2014 में तो हमने किया।
प्लीज
तो आपने तो थोड़े अमेंडमेंट्स लाए, दैट इज अ डिफरेंट थिंग। लेकिन ये डाइल्यूट नहीं होना चाहिए, ऐसा ये भावना नहीं आना चाहिए कि लोकपाल बिल को यहाँ पर लाकर सभी एमपीज ने मिलकर इसको डाइल्यूट कर दिया और वो खुद इस दायरे से बचने के लिए ये कोशिश कर रहे। ऐसा नहीं होना और ये मैसेज बाहर नहीं जाना, इसीलिए हम ये चाहते हैं कि आप क्लैरिफाई करें।
Honorable Speaker ma'am, it's very well taken what Shri Mallikarjun ji has said as a senior honorable member, and certainly it is neither the intention nor the design to dilute. We would even be ready to make it more stringent if that is the recommendation given to us. We are ready to go as far as possible in the endeavor against corruption. If you read the last line of the 44 amendment which I have made, it says, on and from the date of commencement of the Act, every public servant, which also includes the NGO, shall make a declaration of his assets and liabilities in such form and manner as may be prescribed. So certainly we have not deleted that part. Right. It still exists, but maybe on the advice of everybody, including the stakeholders, we would give an opportunity for another thought to it.
That is the meaning. So the minister may now move that the bill be passed.
Speaker ma'am, I move that the bill may be passed.
I think matter is clear to everybody. The question is that the bill be passed. Those in favor may say aye. Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted and the bill is passed.